We are live. We are live. Welcome back to For Evan's Sake Daily. My name is Neodate Evans.
And I'm Nana Evans.
And we bring you the news from a parenting perspective. And it's a Monday. Like, it's our penultimate week.
Yes.
Wow. It's flying by. So today on the show, Nadhim Zahawi and his HMRC tax dispute. Savid Javid asking us to pay for A&E and our doctors, and a new energy scheme which is asking us basically to cut back on energy and then get paid for it. And of course, we have our parenting conundrums. Cool. So, Nadhim Zahawi, he is currently the Conservative Party chairman. And he is in the news at the moment for resolving a dispute that he's had with HMRC. In which he basically owed money to the sum of about £5 million. So it's not no small change.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money
people.
For a lot of people.
Yeah.
So this dispute was actually resolved, the irony here, whilst he was actually Chancellor.
Yes.
Okay, between July and September last year. Now, already there's so many red flags for me. And I think this just goes to speak of the shape that the Conservative Party is in, because how does somebody become Chancellor but they don't even have their own tax affairs in order? But then also to flip it, if the Chancellor can't even get his own tax affairs in order, then what of the normal regular Joe trying to sort their taxes out and getting hounded by HMRC and the taxman and whatnot have you? Like, the whole story just reeks. But so he used to own, do you remember that company? I don't even know if they're still around. I used to hear him all the time, YouGov. So whenever there's a story, then it'd be like YouGov surveys, what have you. So he was a co-founder of that company.
Right. And
so when he sold his shares in it, this is the kind of windfall that he got from it. But even when I found out that he was a co-founder in YouGov, then also made, I mean, politics is insidious anyway, but it made it even more insidious that, so hang on, you are connected to this company that does findings on government surveys, does polls on government surveys, that how can we really even trust the credibility of this company?
When you're involved in the government.
Yeah.
Well, most definitely, yeah.
And then on top of that, I think he is reported to be worth about, it's something insane, over 10 million. So him and his wife together have like a commercial property company, and they're just buying up places here, there, and everywhere. So it was just like all of these red flags.
I'm particularly against that. As I'm not against politicians having money, really, or having businesses. Actually, for his job, he should have a business. When he was Chancellor, he should know about business. He should know about tax. It's really when you fall foul of that and you're in a really high position, that's where the issues are.
I think it's that. And I think for me, on top of that, so it's not necessarily him as an individual, but it gets tiresome for me when I look at a party in general. So even Savid Javid, we're going to come on to him in a minute. You have a party in general where the people in power ruling all come from extremely privileged backgrounds.
Yeah, definitely.
And so then I'm just asking myself, well, how can I trust that you even have an iota of an understanding of what the regular man is going through? And I think, so when I was looking up at this and seeing all of these things that he was involved with and seeing actually how wealthy he is, it just kind of reinforced that stereotype for the Conservative Party for me.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
You know, overall, he probably thought that somehow he could get around it in some way and that bill would disappear because of it. He was in the department to be able to sort that out for himself, and it didn't. I don't think his job is tenable though, because that's a hefty fine by anybody's like standards. Like, that is a real tax discrepancy. And can we trust you to hold any type of authoritative office? I don't think so. Yeah,
I mean, as I said, for me it just doubles down on the state of our government. And again, and I've said it before, obviously I'm talking specifically about the Conservative Party, but it goes for all of them, because it's not to say that people in other parties aren't doing similar jiggery. It's just that
unless he can switch it round and actually say, what's happened to me in my business shows that maybe our tax system and the people that are running it are missing things. It's not run well. Like, depending on the shape of how he twists it, maybe he could get himself out of it. But, you know, he's doubling down and saying he's staying in his position. So let's see how that works.
What's interesting about twisting a story is that James Cleverly then came out in support of Nadhim Zahawi, saying that if we want our politicians to be treated as normal people, then their finances also have to be kept private, like normal people. And I thought, well, nobody's asking for them to be treated like normal people. We are asking for them to be honest and transparent.
Yeah, and nobody's business is hidden. The company's house displays everything. Yeah, so he is actually being treated like a normal person. Yeah. But you have also got a high privileged position. So we have to hold you under
to a higher, a higher level of accountability. So I saw that from him as well. And again, just doubling down on, like, you are actually really out here just trying to be crooks.
And they always have their other friends come along and try and
back this for me, please back this for me.
There's always that, but that doesn't always last, and he may be around for just a couple more months.
Yeah, so. Well, let's see what happens. So moving on, I've already mentioned him, Savid Javid. So he recently, over the weekend, came up on the timeline and in the papers. If you don't know, he's the former Conservative Health Secretary. And so he wrote an article, I think it was in The Express, but basically he's called for people to pay to see their GP or to go to A&E. And he said that the current NHS funding model is unsustainable. Yeah,
as always, that's what they always come along with, that it's unsustainable. Although, you know, there's so much evidence that millions, hundreds of millions was misappropriated in his time as health secretary. So that you had hundreds of millions to spend unwisely is one thing, because you're saying that there's no money there. If you keep on guttering a service, of course it's going to become untenable, and he's a part of it. So is this not a form of privatization?
I mean, we all know that this is what they're setting us up for. And again, the idea that he would say that the NHS is unsustainable, well, then we also have to look at the fact that we have had a Conservative government for the last 13 years. So what part have you played?
Yes.
In it being unsustainable, as you said. No, it was the Times that he wrote it in. And he said that there needs to be a grown-up conversation about reforms to the health service as mounting challenges cause problems. Again, there's no reference to where these problems have come from, but you just want to direct the conversation, telling us it's a grown-up conversation. You just want to direct the conversation towards us paying for healthcare.
And no accountability. You know, somehow it turns into it's our problem.
Yeah, like always, like you weren't running the country, like you weren't in charge of the health service. And so he goes on to cite. So apparently in Ireland, I didn't know this. There's a 75 euros fee for visiting A&E without a referral, and then there's a £20 cost of seeing a doctor, a GP, if you're in Norway and Sweden. And so he was saying that these are examples. That we could
also in Norway and Sweden, they pay people more, so their average wage is a lot higher. Housing costs are a lot lower. You have access to far superior healthcare than we have here. So yeah, people probably wouldn't mind that. Their society is run very differently as well, and how tax is distributed. All of these things make a difference, and we don't have that in place.
No.
So this is just taxing the poor again, because the rich people aren't generally using the NHS. So,
and it's becoming even more and more like they're not even being sophisticated about the way they're trying to make this point now, where it's just like, if you're poor, life is going to be harder for you. And we're not here to help you. And then, you know, and even though he's the former health secretary, this was just an article that he's written in the Times. The Downing Street were asked for a response, and their response was, the Prime Minister is not, quote unquote, currently considering the Tory MP suggestions. So again, it's just these little nuances where you know exactly the game that's being played. And
they throw it out there as well, so you kind of test it out. What was the outrage? You go through the digital footprint, and maybe in 10 years' time, probably 5, they'll introduce a fee like they do. One day you don't pay it and the next day you do, like we have with plastic bags.
Yeah.
And then before you, that's just how it is.
It is.
I can't see how you can really do the A&E one, but I bet to go and see your GP, it won't be long before they're like, yeah, it's going to cost you a tenner, and the next year it'll be £20.
And I think the worst thing for me is I have no faith that if, in 5 years' time from now or 10 years' time from now, that we have to pay to see our GP. I have no faith that the service will be any better than what it is now.
Well, they try and discourage you from going in anyway. It's all kind of like online video calls, just having a telephone consultation. So it probably, I can see it very easily happen. If you have to go in to the surgery, you have to pay. That could happen very easily. And there'll be a lot of people actually with the means to just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it. I will pay to go in. Yeah, I don't even think it would get that much pushback with that introduction.
I mean, it's not quite the same, but a similar-ish example is the congestion charge, because when it came along and ideas were being touted for a charge to go into central London, everybody was like, this is outrageous, this, that and the other. Now...
Then you pay it. Remember, it started off at £5.
£5. What is it, like £12 now? £15?
15, I think.
£15.
Yeah. So it is that quick. Like they may do that with the GP, just a £5. And then every year it's going up. It's going up.
And then you have another pandemic, and then it goes up even more to discourage. Yeah. Oh man. I don't even know anymore. I just don't know. This country and the things that people are proposing, it's just getting a bit out of hand. Because to add to all of that, now we now have the National Grid talking about in order to avoid possible blackouts. Now there's something I didn't imagine that we'd be talking about in this country in this day and age in 2023. But in order to avoid blackouts, they have activated a scheme that offers discounts on bills for households who cut peak time electricity use. Obviously, this cold snap is coming and has caught us.
It's very cold today in the UK, so
extremely cold. So as I said, it's part of their efforts to avoid blackouts, and what they're asking is, what they're saying is that it's going to run between 5 o'clock in the evening and 6 o'clock in the evening for an hour. So they're like, don't switch on your kettle or whatnot have you. And it's like, but this is prime time when.
Yes. Yeah. Most people are starting dinner, kids are kind of settling down, doing their homework. There's all manner of stuff that goes on 5 to 6. Who knows? But really, what about businesses? Wouldn't it be more effective that loads of these office blocks actually just switched everything off? Like maybe they ended work at 4, got people home, and the block went dark. Wouldn't that save a hell of a lot of electricity?
That would make a lot of sense. Just as you said that, you reminded me, I think it was last week. Did you see the video going around of a parent approaching a teacher because his son, basically the son came home and said, we have to wear our jackets in class because the school was not switching on the heating?
I wouldn't be surprised. I've been reading quite a few. I didn't see that, but I've been reading quite a few things from parents in parents forums talking about schools really being scared of, can they get to the end of this like cold snap? Can they manage their electricity, gas bills? Like really actually thinking about how they can claw back some money from parents and councils to pay their bills. So this is a real thing. And you don't want to shut a school. Yeah. But, how do you get around this?
But I mean, even like you said, the example that you gave of buildings, even just where we are, we can see Canary Wharf and, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, you will still see lots of lights up in that building. And I know some people are still in there, but I know not all of those offices are being manned. And
now with remote working, just have office times. Yeah. And then it goes dark. Like there's buildings all around the country that are just lit up all the time. And to put that on houses, we're not using anywhere nowhere near to what's going on in office blocks and industry. Like,
but it always comes on. It always comes to the person.
How
to the people.
Effective is that?
But yeah, so The scheme is available to homes with smart meters.
As always.
As always.
Probably like testing something.
Yeah. And apparently more than 1 million households and businesses have actually signed up to take part in the scheme.
Let's see if it does anything.
Yeah. I'm not I don't think so. So there's another story, which I just came across just early this morning. And it was so sad. So back in 2021, there was a young girl. She was 19, and she plays her lottery numbers online.
Yeah,
same numbers all the time, and then her numbers came up.
Yeah,
she won like 189 million pounds.
Yeah, Euro Millions
win. So obviously she's excited. She's at home with her boyfriend and I think her mum. She's like, oh my gosh. So then she calls up the line, and they were like, okay, so yes, you have got the numbers. However, your payment for the ticket never went through.
Sad as hell.
That is the most crushing thing.
Sad as hell.
In a way, I was like, even if it was £1 million, I'm going to be devastated, but I can crack on. I can dust myself off.
I think once you get into the millions, yeah, it's a huge number, but she probably could have changed a lot of things with 100,000.
Yeah.
So it's still crushing. I mean, she can take heart in. There's lots of people that wish that they never won the lottery.
Yeah, this is true.
That their life, was terrible. So you never know what type of guardian angel she has that was like this. You don't need these problems. You think you want them, but you don't need them.
I don't
189 million is a lot, and work your time.
I don't think there's ever going to be a time where she sits and is like, I'm glad I didn't win that money.
Well, she seemed to be more like, I was devastated, but I got over it. Compared to her ex-boyfriend, seemed like he took it hard and he didn't even. Maybe he had put money in her account before. Who knows why he took it so hard.
It's probably like a frustration because it's like, maybe the fact that there was no money in the account, like you said, maybe put money in the account, or it might be like, this is a kind of character trait of his girlfriend, and you'd be like, this is the final straw. This is
of course, like we've missed ABC opportunities, and look at this, like it don't get bigger than this, and you still fumbled that as well. Yeah. It could be that, but reading it, I was like, that's harsh, but. She obviously really needed that lottery win because she couldn't do the £2.
Yeah.
But,
it would be nice for them just to give us something,
Yeah, but you're doing that. You'd be doing that all the time. Like, people don't have money on an automatic charge all the time. Like, it's just the way of the world. I would take, for me to process it, that's how I would process it. I'd be like, some guardian angel was... Yeah, they were looking out for me. I weren't supposed to have this.
No, I'm going to have trouble with that one. I think at the best or worst, rather, I don't know whichever way you want to look at it. So obviously, this article's come out in a paper. At least if I know this article's coming out in a paper, best believe I'm setting up a GoFundMe. I'm setting up a GoFundMe, and some people are going to read my story and they're going to feel a little bit sorry for me. And if I walk away with, I was going to say 10 grand, but even if I walk away with £1,000, it's something, mate. It's something. But ideally, if I set up a GoFundMe and I was able to walk away with 10 grand for people just feeling sorry for me, I'd be like, all right, cool. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Who knows? Anyway, moving on. Nana, our parenting conundrum.
Okay, our parenting conundrum today is my son has had his wedding day days ago, and we had some past issues that affected our relationship. This is coming from the father. So we're not on speaking terms because he decided to sell his grandmother's home. This is the father's wife's mother, instead of keeping it. He sent his mum an invitation, but didn't include me. I was fine with that. I didn't try and fight back or anything, but however, I refused to drive my wife to the wedding. She's disabled and cannot drive, and we live 3 hours away. I said that since I'm not invited to the wedding, nor am I taking part in it, then I shouldn't have to drive there. My wife told me I was being unreasonable and that I was punishing her for our son's decision. But I told her it was on her to make travel arrangements since she's an adult, or he could have provided proper means of transportation for her and not assume that I'd go there when I'm not welcome. We had an argument and she ended up being taken there by my brother. She refused to speak to me upon her return, and my brother said I was in the wrong for letting her fend for herself when me and my car were available. Am I in the wrong?
Absolutely not.
I don't think so either.
Absolutely not. Like I couldn't even wrap my head. So it's like the son clearly is trying to manipulate the situation, because if you know that you're 3 hours away and you know that your mum is disabled and you know that you're not speaking to your dad and you haven't invited him, yeah, you've clearly done this to put your mum in a situation where she's going to call on your dad to be like, hey. So that was really on him to make sure his mum was able to get there.
Yeah.
Number two, the brother turning
up in a hotel.
The brother saying he was out of order. She was left to fend for herself. So who are you then? Who are you? You took her there. You took her there.
I read this and thought, everybody hates this guy. I don't know what he has done, but everybody hates him.
There was, in the comments, this was on Reddit, in the comments, people were like, nah, we're going to need some more detail.
Yeah.
We're going to need some more detail. Like, why did you and your son fall out? Because at the moment, this ain't making sense. Because it's just like,
no.
How I read it and it was like, how could he possibly be the one that's out of order? Because it's like,
no.
You want this man to travel, to do a 6-hour round trip, yeah? So what's he supposed to do when the wedding is happening?
There's details missing. Because either he was kind of invited and has decided the invitation wasn't right, so I'm not going, and I'm not invited. The levels to it don't really make sense. And I think it is the additional that his brother also said, you were out of order, to me is like,
no, this is weird.
You've built this up. What you're telling us isn't everything, and you're probably not an agreeable person in lots of other ways, and people don't like you.
100%.
Like, 100%. This doesn't make any sense.
Because, and the thing is, I noticed that sometimes with quite a few of these stories where you get to the end of the story and you're like, based on what you've written, how would you think that you are, like, I wouldn't even write the story, because I'm like, based on what you've written, it's clear that you're not the, do you know what I mean? Yeah, guys, if you're going to write these stories, be honest, innit? Like,
in some way,
it's anonymous, innit? So just be honest.
But in some way, the father isn't liked. And not just, like, realistically, if there was any respect for him, I don't think the wife is going to be like, I'm going. Like, there's levels to, like, to go through with it, because if what he's saying is true, and he is a lovely father, and all that has gone wrong is this one disagreement, then as the mother, you know that this isn't going to sit well.
Do you know what the red flag is?
It's going to cause problems.
Do you know what the red flag is? Is he's saying he's beefing his son over the sale of his wife's mother's house. So it's not even in your family.
No.
So to me, that's giving controlling vibes, innit? Yes. So you're going to be one of them people that's like, oh, son, you've inherited this house. Rent it out. This is like, passive income, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And he's like, nah, I'm going to do the flip and take the money. And he hasn't listened to you. So you're up in your feelings. And now all of a sudden he's the worst person in the world. But it doesn't. There's too many red flags.
No. Yeah. So I think that the mum just went ahead and went to the wedding without him. And all of that is like, you probably should have been asking us for advice on how you can fix your personality. Anything else. Because reading between the lines, I would say that you are probably the problem.
Oh, my life, yeah.
And people are a bit sick and tired of you, and they're just doing their thing.
I'm inclined to agree. I am inclined to agree.
What is going on is you're probably the toxic one.
Well, there you have it. Well,
I think, and if anybody else is finding themselves in similar situations, you're probably the toxic one.
Absolutely, 100%. All right, well, I think that's us.
Okay.
I think that is us. That is Monday.
Lovely.
And we've got 4 more days.
Yes.
And then next week is our final week.
Yes, yes.
Our final week.
So get involved, comment, follow us on all the socials as well, and also like and share this video.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful day. Have a great week. And we will see you here tomorrow at 12.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.